Hello, everybody. Welcome to Medical Myths, the show about what not to do with your body. And today we are kicking off December 2025. And I was thinking, instead of talking about the usual kind of nitty gritty scientific topics, we're still going to stay in the range of pseudoscience, but we're going to address more of the economic impacts of the wellness industry and this idea that health and wellness is a commodity, right? We are in late stage capitalism and we know exactly how we got to the place that we're at. I think the Maha or Make America Healthy Again movement is really a symptom of a bigger health crisis. And with it being so close to the holidays, I think we're all getting, very fed up with all of the advertisements, like even just outside the holiday season, there's so many advertisements constantly. Everything is an ad for something to buy. It feels like you can't just go about your life without purchasing something. And of course, you're going to have to purchase necessities like food, shelter, etc. But are the things that we're purchasing really helping us live better lives? Or is all of this just a way to make lots and lots of money for people at the top? And unfortunately, that seems to be the case. And with the internet getting more and more, becoming more and more of the focus of everyone's jobs and our lives, it's very easy to have propaganda thrown at us and telling us what we should think, what we should believe, what we should do. And so there is definitely a push and pull here. And I think the overwhelming uh, accountability for this issue kind of goes to the American healthcare system. It goes to the insurance industry because we have, on the one hand, we have evidence-based healthcare. However, it is really unaccessible, especially in the United States. And this kind of leads to these other problems. So if you don't have access to actual healthcare, because insurance costs are through the roof, what do? You do the best that you can with what information you have access to, right? Kind of the biggest healthcare educators, or who are supposed to be healthcare educators, are hidden behind a paywall of insurance and copays. So if you wanted to ask questions, if you wanted to learn more, it's really difficult to get accurate information. Combine that with the destruction of the educational system and not prioritizing teaching people how to find the right answers, how to ask questions, how to get information. People don't have anywhere to go. And I think that this is intentional. This is definitely intentional. And uh, it allows for the wellness industry. It allows for corporations, businesses, uh, propaganda groups, lobbying groups to get their narrative out there and to control the narrative and to control people and to control the money. And that really is the core of this. So uh, we're taking a bit of that turn today. We'll be going through a few different articles, kind of discussing all of this. But I hope the end goal of this is you all understanding that you don't need to buy things. You don't need to buy these fancy things. You don't need to, like, unfortunately, in order to get healthcare right now, you kind of do have to be rich, and I can't really change that. But hopefully, we can explore some different ways to stay healthy, to prevent health decline in the future by doing things that are not going to cost money, at least improving that aspect of our lives. And thank you so much to Quantos Nachos for the $20 Canadian super chat. Thanks for being a real one, Dr. Ben. you're a good person and people say nice things about you. Your work here and at the line and whatnot, it's appreciated by us dum dums who need a smart person who says words good. Well, thank you so much for your encouragement, your kind words. And I hope that this past year has been some good information for you all. I know we didn't do a whole lot of medical myths this year. I took a little bit of a hiatus just with all of the job situation going on, but I'm happy to be back. And I think soon we'll have a fun end of the year wrap up for us. Um, and for people who were here last night for the trivia event, I did drink a good bit, and I'm not hungover this morning. Surprisingly, I took the dog to the dog park today, and it was a great time. But we're here now to talk a little bit about money and late stage capitalism, everyone's favorite subjects. And yes, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. All of that really, really does go a long way. Um, so we're going to first look at here, I'm going to switch so you can see better. So we're going to look at this article from the Global Wellness Institute. So this is, of course, a business entity talking about the wellness industry in general. So there's this argument that is pushed a lot by alternative medicine practitioners and wellness gurus, influencers, etc., trying to claim that, well, why would you want to line the pockets of big pharma? All they want to do is take your money. They want to keep you sick so that they can keep cashing in on your healthcare. As if they say this as if alternative medicine practitioners are not collecting money and that they're not trying to sell you something. But something happened. I mean, this has been the case for a while, is that the global wellness industry has been bigger than the pharmaceutical industry. But how big it has gotten and how much bigger it is than the pharmaceutical industry, I think clearly debunks this idea that big pharma is the bad guy out there to steal your money and you should look to the wellness market. I do agree that big pharma, and like just with anything in capitalism, there is really no ethical consumption and also like no ethical selling. Like it's we live in a system, and no matter what you contribute to it, you are going to uh further the damage of this system. You're giving into this game of capitalism. And so yeah, there are practices by big pharma that can be very sketchy. And being a big business like that, like, should they be keeping as much profits as they are? Should they be reinvesting all of that in the community? I think a lot of this would be less of an issue if we had uh, a fully public healthcare system. If we had, if everybody had access to medicine, access to healthcare, access to appointments, all of that. If we had the staffing in place, if we had the coverage in place, if we had the educational system in place to keep bringing in new professionals into the system, we wouldn't be struggling with this issue, and big pharma wouldn't even be in the question. But because we're feeding into a capitalist system, like yes, big pharma is making money, but so is the wellness industry. And according to this article, uh, $3.4 trillion industry for the global wellness market is now 3 times larger than the worldwide pharmaceutical industry. So we're talking worldwide. Um, so there can be issues with big pharma and issues with wellness. To say that there are issues with pharma does not excuse the behavior of the wellness industry. It does not mean that buying your kale smoothie is going to make you any healthier if you don't get healthcare related to medications. So that's really the big issue that we're addressing here. So New York, September 30th, 2014, with consumer demand for wellness services. And so this is specifically from 2014, so this is a while back. So I'm sure that this has been a lot worse in the recent years. Um, but the $1 trillion pharmaceutical industry, they're saying here, compared to the $3.4 trillion wellness industry. And so they're saying, and again, a lot of this has probably changed since 10 years ago. Um, but we've seen changes in healthy eating, nutrition, and weight loss, preventative and personalized health, complementary and alternative medicine, which is probably the big one that I'm targeting here, and beauty and anti-aging. So the spa industry. So that brings up a big point. We're going to talk about medi spas today. People using and like I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with medi spas. Like I don't think it's wrong to go like have a healthcare professional overseeing your skin care, your laser hair removal, all that stuff. I think that that's fine. I think it's I just think that the the problem isn't necessarily the medi spa itself, it's the regulation of the medi spas. It's this idea that you have to have healthcare marketed as this uh luxury item, like this luxury experience. And I think this where influencers a lot of times are using their wellness regimen, their wellness products, their wellness experiences to show off their luxury, to show off their income. It's a status symbol. And where we are in such a place now that healthcare is a status symbol, and even beyond that, having healthcare that is a spa uh, is definitely showing off a status that like you have this money that you can spend on your coffee enemas at your medi spa, but the majority of Americans can't even afford standard healthcare, can't even afford routine visits, can't afford actual preventative medicine. Wellness tourism is another big one. So people going to medi spas across the borders. We're talking about the cancer clinics in Mexico that we touched on a few weeks ago. People going to Turkey for hair transplants. And again, I don't think that hair transplants are inherently bad. I think gender affirming care is appropriate for anyone, but that it's so expensive and it is such a status symbol when people can't afford, life-saving measures. Um, that's pretty much what I was gonna cover with this article. I have couple articles here that we'll kind of go through point by point, and one of them getting into more of the mental health industry, and another one going into the medi spas. I've got one talking about influencer culture. So we'll just kind of hit on these. So I really like the title of this one, and we're going to zoom in here. Yeah, this article is more than 5 years old, but I think that this is. Oh, you rated the vertical one by mistake. Oh no, it's okay. I'm sorry. um, but this is more than 5 years old, but I think it's still relevant, and certain things that maybe have changed in the recent years. Um, we can kind of speculate on or talk about. But I do think that the wellness industry kind of really took off during COVID. We have people with a lot of distress. I think capitalism in itself has caused a lot of burnout in our society. People are having mental health crises out the wazoo because we live in a system that does not care about us. And the fact is that the majority of people aren't going to be able to retire. People aren't going to be able to do the things that bring them joy. People get this feeling that they exist to serve the corporate machine go to work, pay taxes, and die. And that takes a huge toll on you. And I think being in lockdown, and having another crisis, like, so we're supposed to work, but now we can't go to work because we have to stay inside. A lot of these issues that have come up have made the situation a lot worse, and people are dealing with more burnout and more of desperation to grasp at straws to make them feel better. And so I think that a there's a valid side of self-care, right? I think self-care is appropriate. Self-care is great. But it's the making self-care a commodity to be sold that is really, really despicable, because you have the population who's just looking for some form of comfort to deal with the reality that we live in and deal with a society that is crumbling more and more every day. And corporations look at that and they say, "Oh, well, I have a solution for you. Buy my $130 peptide, like fava bean pills, and then you'll feel better. Buy my spa treatment, you'll feel better. Buy all these things and you'll feel better. Take a vacation." Right? All those things cost a lot of money, but what about the things that, like, you could have self-care without buying that? Why not uh go take a nap? Why not go take a walk outside? Why not chat with a friend? Why are the things that are supposed to be healthy so expensive? And, like, again, with the fava bean powder thing, that was with the peptide stream we had last week. But Make Wellness, that MLM company trying to sell literally 130 for 30 days worth of fava bean powder in a pill, which you could just eat some fava beans. Like, you could just eat some vegetables, you could drink some water. Those things are all self-care too, and they're a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier for someone to go to the store and buy a can of beans than it is for them to buy from an MLM. Uh, but these businesses do a great job convincing us that in order to be healthy, you have to pay a lot of money for it. So I love this title. The wellness industry is selling you the myth that a healthy life is expensive. Ignore the wild claims for seaweed wraps and spin classes. Real well-being is about fun, fairness, and relationships. So I'll read a little bit of this, and I love. I find it ironic though that this the article is about medical, like, wellness consumerism, and on the side it has a make a quick resolution to avoid quick fix diets, says top NHS doctor. Uh, so the whole diet stuff on the side. Yeah, do up your own bathroom with a couple of candles and something that smells nice for an in-home spa. I do that all the time. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And if that's something that you can afford, that's great. And if you can't afford the candles, that's okay too. Uh, we can do cheaper things for self-care for sure. Um, and this is written by a Brit. But this issue is very, very global. I did not intend to have a spa experience. The plan was to go for afternoon tea, but the spa next door was included in the price. And so arrived a well-being menu, one where one could choose between seaweed wraps to purify and a meditative steam room with energizing lights to de-stress. I thought massage was the least worst option, but after it was explained to me how it would detoxify and re-energize me, I felt a potent mixture of despair and rage. And I want to point out something here. Like, there is a very toxic idea that, and I think this ties in with the religious culture in our society, that you are inherently broken, that you are not good enough to just exist on your own. You need to be detoxed and re energized. You need to do all these things to feel different. You need to be different. You need to live differently. And I could see why this comes across a lot like victim blaming for one. It's like, "Oh, you're unhealthy, that's your own fault." When really a lot of it is systemic disparities. Like this is we're in a system that does not allow people to get preventative health care. Um, and it tells you you need to do XYZ to uh change everything about you and detoxify what's wrong with your body. That can be uh that's not a great way to improve mental health, I would say that. Well-being as a modern concept that causes me or as a modern concept causes me existential pain. Holistically upgraded hotels, including enemas and medi spas, offer well-being weekends. Employers can buy corporate packages for workplace wellness, which will apparently increase productivity and reduce rates of sick leave. So claiming that you can reduce sick leave by having a wellness package where people can go get spa days and stuff, which will you can take spin classes in London that cost more than £20 a time. You could buy an actual bike for the same price as 5 of those, where you get offered wellness vitamin shots and earplugs as standard to help drown out the pounding music. The modern iteration of wellness, defined at least in part by the need to purchase something to have it, piggybacks on the multi-billion-dollar diet supplement and fitness industry. Now it's $1 trillion diet supplement and fitness industry. A report from sports think tank claims that 1 in 7 Brits are a member of a gym, with the industry now worth more than £5 billion. Some gyms take wellness to surreal levels. Some offer cryotherapy, which involves standing in a space cooled to extremely low temperatures to apparently prevent signs of aging and improve recovery. Others have treadmills complete with oxygen vaporizers to supposedly increase endurance. Meanwhile, the diet book phenomenon has reached epic proportions. Rather than well-being being straightforward, don't smoke, don't drink too much, do exercise you like, eat a variety of foods with lots of vegetables and little processed stuff, see people and do things, the industry has created its own mythology. Well-being is presented as complicated, complex, difficult to achieve correctly, and best when purchased, all while requiring gurus to access it. This entanglement of industries makes what should be straightforward, a healthy lifestyle, into a complicated consumerist mess. And I think a lot of this does also come down to the fact that like anybody can pass themselves off as an authority. And I think people are having a lot of decision fatigue. People kind of want somebody to tell them how to do something correctly, because I mean if you're going to buy something and spend time and money working on it and something as important as your health, I think a lot of people don't want to take the risk of spending the money and having it not work. So it's a lot easier, I think, to trust somebody else to tell you this is what you need to do. And we have this distrust in the healthcare system because of how expensive it is and how poor our education is, that now people are viewing the opinions of medical boards and licensed physicians, licensed practitioners with MLM huns and people that are wellness influencers who literally just get paid for having clickbaity titles and have already having a good body and trying out some greens powder and saying, "Hey, I got this good body from greens powders," even though they just have a good body anyway. Like very unrealistic things that they're claiming make them an authority. But if people don't know the difference, it's easy to get sucked into this kind of thing. And so and in addition, um, not only that these like alternative medicine and uh like conventional medicine are put on the same pedestal, they're weighed equally in a lot of the media and throughout society. So um if you don't have access to the one, if you don't have access to vaccines, healthcare visits, then a lot of people would think that, oh, well, I could just spend the money on some cryotherapy and maybe that's good enough. And so I think it's definitely an issue that these are platformed equally, and in our society where everybody gets a vote, believing that every vote is equal or every opinion is equal. And so I'm just going to listen to this Instagram girly to tell me what medicines I should and should not take, what vaccines I should and should not take. And don't even get me started on the whole Hep B situation right now within the government. You have, in addition to that, you have senators who are physicians. Like we have a GI physician um, in the government who voted to keep RFK Jr., voted to confirm RFK Jr. like into his position. So, we fucked up on a lot of this. But it also, I'm sure it does not help that we have physicians who should be evidence-based practitioners allowing MAHA to happen and allowing non-evidence-based care to have such a platform. So who are we supposed to listen to on these things? This doesn't mean that diet and exercise aren't important. A global review published in The Lancet in 2017 found that more physical activity was associated with longer lives and fewer heart attacks and strokes. This included not just formal gym going exercise, but walking and housework. In other words, you don't have to tie yourself to a treadmill to get fit. Absolutely. And this is, again, this idea that you have to have a gym membership, you have to go to a spin class, you have to go pay for physical activity, and that shouldn't be the case. And you don't have to go run a mile. You don't have to go run uh, a marathon. You don't have to do these very sporty things. Walking around your neighborhood, walking around your house, cleaning. Cleaning has a lot of activity. And where we see people um, like in later years getting heart failure and etc., we use things like walking to the mailbox, walking to the bathroom as ways to measure physical activity for them. But don't forget that doing your housework is free. I know it's not a fun activity. It's not very um like for a lot of people it's not very stress relieving, but don't feel like you have to do all that housework and still go to the gym if you only have the energy to do one or the other. Housework is meeting that goal, and it definitely, we don't see a lot of influencers on Instagram and TikTok going out and saying, I did so much exercise today, I did all this housework. Like, we don't see that because it's not glamorized. It doesn't make them seem healthier. It doesn't make them seem more like a credible wellness guru, right? Like, we have to remember that the things that are put on social media are crafted. They are strategized. Like, they are movie magicked in a certain way to make you believe something about them. But most of it is fake. There should be no pressure for you to do the exact same things as somebody else. When we have the data that shows that, a lot of what's improving healthcare in this society is people just walking more, people taking their car less if they're able to do so, people doing their own chores, even something like instead of getting food delivered to your house, like driving to the restaurant, walking into the restaurant, and walking out. That's still more physical activity than sitting at home and waiting for things to be delivered to you. Um, and that's, of course, not to conflate that, with people with disabilities who need that accessibility. That's different here. This is um, being able to use your body in ways that you are already easily able to do does help. Those little things do matter. And you don't need to buy something. You don't need to buy fancy shoes. You don't need to buy a fancy Fitbit. That's something else that has kind of like ruined our society's view on wellness. I think this idea that everything needs to be automated, you need to have constant surveillance on your health status. Like, wearing a heart monitor all the time is so unnecessary. If you live your life and you don't have symptoms of anything concerning, and if you have symptoms of anything concerning, you don't need a Fitbit monitor, you need an actual cardiologist evaluation. Like, if you have an arrhythmia that needs to be worked up, you need a Holter monitor, or you need, uh, like, even in worst cases, like an implantable monitor. That's, for medical indications, that is what someone would need. For someone healthy who's trying to get in shape and all that, you don't need to monitor your heart rate constantly. This idea that everything needs to be personalized and everything needs to be perfect uh, and optimal is kind of ridiculous. And I think that causes a lot more stress on people to feel like they have to perform to a certain degree, or they have to constantly be obsessed with their health status. And no, no, you really don't. You can monitor your own feelings. Like, definitely work your way up to intense exercise. Like, if you're not comfortable going for a run, go for a walk. If you're not comfortable going for a mile walk, go for a walk around the block. Go on a walk to the bathroom. Like, this is a case where I will say listen to your body, and if you feel like you're doing okay, if you feel like you can handle more activity, go for it. Try a little bit more. And if you're feeling like, I can't really do much more, you don't need a heart monitor to tell you that. You don't you can say, this doesn't make me feel well, I'm going to sit down and take a break. And none of that requires you to buy a Fitbit. Another thing too, sleep tracking. People love to track their sleep throughout the night. And honestly, if you have concerns about your sleep, like, and I get people don't always have access to like a physician. Um, Something just crashed. There we go. We're back. Oh no. Why is it giving me an ad? Hold on. I have to reshare my screen. The web page crashed. Share screen. It's telling me to turn off my ad blocker. Okay, fine. We're gonna pause just for this. Okay. See, it even wanted me to have I wanted the whole paywall thing to even read this article about consumerism is kind of hilarious. Um, but where was I on that? Yeah, it's like, it's okay to have concerns about your sleep, and I get that people don't have the ability always to go see a sleep specialist. But using your phone to track your sleep isn't really going to change your sleep quality. There are some certain things that will help, like avoiding caffeine close to bedtime, even avoiding exercise close to bedtime, because exercise can put you in a fight or flight state. You have adrenaline running through your body, and you're gonna be more likely to stay up, and it can impair your sleep quality. Um, Stopping alcohol, uh, stopping, like, something big too is, not having a TV in your bedroom, or, like, not looking at your screens while in bed, not doing work in your bedroom. Actually, there is evidence to suggest that keeping, uh, keeping your bedroom as your bedroom, like, this is my sleep spot, and having other places not be your sleep spot, you can condition your body pretty easily to learn how to regulate your circadian rhythm, and that is evidence based. You don't need a sleep tracker to help you with that. And in fact, like, you could even do a sleep tracker, but you could do a manual one. You could write down, like, there are the whatever the board is for sleep medicine, they actually have a printout. You can print out a paper sleep tracker, and it'll show you how to do it. But you track, when you're awake and when you think you fell asleep, and you can figure out what is your sleep pattern. Are you getting enough hours during the night? Are you waking up periodically? Why are you waking up? What are you doing before sleep? All that stuff. You can do that for free. You don't need an app to do that. You don't need a Fitbit to do that. So this idea that you need all this technology to help you succeed is kind of ridiculous, and it is a narrative meant to get you to buy things. So that's something to think about. Like if someone's trying to sell you anything, if someone tells you this is for your wellness, think about that. Does this involve me buying something? Do I need to buy something? Or is there a way that I can do this in a way that doesn't require me to spend any money? And usually there is. Usually there is a way to do that. Yeah. Okay. So along that topic of the gym thing, a review published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine concluded any amount of running, even just once a week, is better than no running. But higher doses of running may not necessarily be associated with greater mortality benefits. So yeah, you don't have to obsess over running. There may be a cap on the benefits that you're going to get from running, as far as heart attack and stroke reduction. So you don't have to say I have to run every single day. No, like maybe you say, I'm gonna run a half mile one day this week. Cool. I'm gonna do a sprint down the street and back. Like that might be all that you need. The same goes for the diet industry. Weight loss is certainly a mainstay of treatment for some conditions, and the evidence points to whole grains, fruit, and vegetables, a variety of olive oil as associated with better health. Yet the media onslaught of experts arguing for their diet over another is liable to make onlookers believe that there's no broad agreement in food science about anything. Many dietitians are standing up for evidence based advice, but much of the media concocts the illusion that a healthy diet is obtainable only via a particular belief system. Yeah, and we cover that a lot on this channel too. Here, the very idea of pleasurable eating is immoral. Yeah, and that's, I need to do a show on this idea of we talk about diets a lot, but the fact that eating for pleasure is seen as a moral failing is a huge, huge problem. And that's another tactic for them to sell you some idea. All of the wellness and diet gurus that we look at on this channel sell supplements or they sell something. Whether they sell a course, they sell a book, they sell supplements, they sell some other product, they are selling you something. Or even if they're selling you on clicks, like if you need to click on their video more, that is, they are trying to sell you something. And so is what they're selling you actually worth that? And like the evidence-based science all converges on a few different things. And there can be some nitty-gritty debates here and there on what macronutrient split is ideal for different types of activity levels and all that, but a lot of this comes down to the same principles. Reducing red meat consumption, reducing saturated fat intake, reducing um, excess amounts of sugar. So not all sugar. Like sugar isn't a bad thing, but removing excess sugar, um, not eating more calories than we can expend, uh, and all that. Using unsaturated fats, eating more vegetables, eating more whole grains, like eating foods that are more nutrient dense, and less empty calories. All of these things you can do a variety of different ways. And some of this uh, can be difficult for people who live in food deserts. And I remember the the guy Andrew who called in when I was on uh, the line recently with Godless Engineer, who just did not understand the concept of a food desert. There are people who do not have access to healthy food, and that is a huge issue. So instead of selling these wellness supplements or selling these uh like propaganda diets, like we can see where the money is going, and see where it should go, and that kind of tells us the intent of the people behind this. Like we do have an issue with food deserts. So if you want to change America to be healthier, instead of investing your money in making the proof for unverified supplements and trying to sell those, put that money in improving the infrastructure. Uh, put some like do some lobbying for universal healthcare, for universal housing. If you live in a place, if you live in a house, like if you live in a clean place with lower infection risk, like a clean area with clean water, uh, like plants around, that isn't overly industrialized, all that, we are going to have a change in healthcare outcomes. And we do know for a fact that healthcare outcomes vary significantly based on zip code. And a lot of that, of course, the zip code is tied to your socioeconomic status and a lot of times your race. So we overwhelmingly see these poorer health outcomes in Black communities, in immigrant communities, right? So that is where the money needs to go. If you really cared, if these wellness gurus really gave a shit about people's health, instead of selling their course and it's selling you their stuff, they would be working on these communities and helping people get out of those situations. And if, especially if we're talking influencers who are making thousands of dollars a month just from posting clickbait, you only need so much to live on, right? Like, there's a lot of extra money that could go into building healthier communities, but they're not doing that. So why aren't they doing that? Why aren't these wellness people putting their money where their mouth is? I guess I should say because they are putting their money where their mouth is, but they have clear intentions to want to make money instead of fixing the system that they claim is flawed. Selling product isn't going to fix the system. Yeah, healthy communities aren't a consistent source of profit. And yeah, and every accusation is a confession with these people. Like, this is the same argument that they use against big pharma, but something that is going to help healthcare outcomes is vaccine accessibility, insulin accessibility, um, HRT accessibility. All of that is going to do leaps and bounds more than wellness supplements and medi spas. The worst thing about modern incarnations of well being is that they devolve responsibility for health onto individuals via a commercial market. The environment we live in should be designed to maximize our health. And this is exactly what I was just talking about. Exercise should be joyful at its best, and we should hardly know that we're doing it. Street play used to be common. Now, in many areas, it requires special schemes to give children priority over cars for short periods of time. We need to turn our understanding of well-being on its head, away from individuals and towards populations. Yeah, encourage community sports, encourage kids to go outside and play. Um, have a system where people can actually take time off of work to go play. Give them free time, give them weekends. Prevent burnout at work so that they can go do these things. And their next point here, I absolutely agree with and love. We need better infrastructure for walking and cycling so they become the primary method of urban transport. Yeah, and again, so the transportation industry is also huge. The fact that in a lot of cities in the US, you have to have a car, you have to buy gas, you have to pay for parking, all of that generating income for the corporations when we could be walking, we could be biking, we could have uh, more commuter, like pedestrian friendly cities. That's what we need, better public transit. That's going to help the environment and it's going to help our communities. It's going to bring people more together. It's going to, like, having infrastructure for walking and cycling is also going to promote, more kind of neighborhood structures with food availability. You're going to reduce the food deserts as an issue because supermarkets and grocery stores, farmers markets are going to open up in these areas instead of people having the ability to drive 20 minutes to have to do all this stuff, they can do it right there. They can walk 5 minutes to the store. People could open more mom and pop shops and sell these things. You can generate business in those communities, and that is going to do a lot more. It should be possible for children to walk to school without worrying about traffic. Absolutely. Our well being should not be measured by how thin we are. Yes. Policies such as minimum alcohol pricing and mitigating the food deserts more than a million UK residents are estimated to live in, with limited access to affordable fresh fruit and veg, are far more likely to yield meaningful improvements for our collective health. Absolutely. Yeah. And we already touched on the food desert thing. My preferred definition of wellness is not something offered by the contemporary wellness marketplace. It means not being sleepless with worry about a review of sickness benefits. It means not living in a damp house and not working in a job with hours so variable and erratic that affordable childcare can't be managed. It would be nice for wellness to mean that being poor won't impact your lifespan, on your chances of being diagnosed with chronic diseases. Real societal wellness is about fairness, public responsibility, science, and evidence. Absolutely. It will certainly not come to us via an oxygen diffusing machine on a treadmill. Yes. Oh, and the author is a GP. So this is a physician who wrote this. And yes, this is exactly why we need to talk about this more. This is why at the core my channel exists. It's not just that I'm not just here to destroy people's belief system in, their Ayurvedic medicine or their homeopathic medicine and all that. I'm not here to just, be combative, right? This is all about improving healthcare outcomes, and people, like, this is a life or death issue. Because when we talk about risk of chronic diseases, we're talking about like risk of pulmonary disease. Think about air pollution, the risk of developing something like COPD, which is absolutely terrible to live with. Like, even beyond the fact that you're going to have all these healthcare costs, having to pay for supplemental oxygen, having to pay for hospital admissions and all that, but it's miserable. I don't think anybody wants to live in a situation where they can't go walk outside because they don't have the energy to do so, right? And this is a cycle, and I need to pull up a diagram for this. The of disparity. I'll see if I can find it, but yeah. So this is a good one. Um, I'm going to switch over to this, but this is a cycle that continually impacts poor people. And so it makes sense under this, like, why uh people want to flex their status. They want to flex that they're not too poor to afford healthcare. Uh but the people who are poor are going to just be in a deeper hole because there's no way to escape this. And this isn't getting a whole lot bigger for you all. I'm trying. But so we have uh I mean, you could start from anywhere on this. But let's start with social and economics. So, uh, you don't have the ability to get a good job. You can't afford to go to college. You came from an immigrant family who can't really get access to a lot of public services, etc. So you end up being limited on employment options, limited income, and therefore limited empowerment in your society. You live in a residential area that is, you have fewer options for residential areas. You have infrastructure that's not well maintained. You have probably pests around that can be vectors for disease. You have um, like you're probably living closer to industrial areas, so you have higher air pollution. You have a food desert where you can't access healthy food. All that impacts your healthcare risks. Yeah, so that's under residential characteristics, and all that, worse environmental impact. So you have higher stress levels because you're trying to manage all of your uh, housing issues, your food issues. You're trying to find jobs, all that. You have higher stress levels, um, and increased toxic exposure with where you're living, uh, and all that contributes to worse mental health outcomes. You get some substance abuse. You get the feeling that you have to do illegal activity to make money. You're stealing bread. You're um, selling your medications because you can't afford uh, to pay your rent. You can't afford your food. So you get depressed. You develop PTSD. You have other physical health issues that can come from environmental issues, again, like COPD. You can have diabetes that develops from this because you have a food desert and you can't get access to healthy food. You have risks in pregnancy. You have uh, you're having kids but they have poor health outcomes because you can't get prenatal care. Um, and so they're coming into the world with the same kind of issues, but it's getting worse. And they have all of those limiting factors as well. So it just spirals. And then with that too, you have those worst health outcomes. And then now you have this giant hospital bill because you keep getting admitted for lung disease. And now you have lung cancer because you lived in this industrial area. And then how are you going to pay that off? You can't. So all of this is just setting people up for failure, and we need to address this. And you know what? People are with their limited education options. A lot of them are starting to believe that, oh yeah, if I just stop getting vaccinated, then I'm going to like not have health risks anymore. I'm going to get better. Or if I get some colloidal silver or any of that, and then they feel bad that they're spending all of their money on that instead of spending money on food, and they're digging themselves into a deeper hole. So this wellness industry isn't just, luxury for rich people. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not just that. These are rich people preying on poor people, causing poor people to suffer more and feel like the poor people have to pay into the rich people's pockets in order to be healthy, in order to undo this cycle. It's not going to happen. The wellness influencers living in the $10 million mansion that they showed you on TikTok is not going to save you. Their advice is not going to work. We need to start standing up against these and saying, we don't need to buy your shit. So I think that there's a lot of responsibility that needs to fall on people that sell this propaganda and that perpetuate these ideas, because it is killing people. Very indirectly, but it is killing people. It is contributing to the death of real humans, and that needs to stop. I wanna switch over to another article here, and this gets into more of the mental health thing as well. Because again, so looking back at what we were just talking about with the cycle of medical, disparities, and how all of this is setting you up to fail, but then making healthcare outcomes bad and making mental health care outcomes really bad. And so this idea that you have to buy into self-care days, and that you have to like, wouldn't you rather spend the money to go do this self-care stuff, or like would you rather spend that money on that as opposed to spend it in the hospital? And like, yeah, that's something that you could consider, but do we need to spend, like, should we need to spend the money on this wellness shit at all? Why do you have to make that choice? So this article is from 2024, so more recent than the other one, but has the $1.8 trillion wellness industry commodified mental well-being? And this idea that, oh, if you want to be happy, you have to buy into it. Um, and that is especially despicable with mental health care. More than ever, we are prioritizing our health. Rooted in this desire for optimization, an economy has flourished and quickly and relatively quickly at that. Wellness has become a $1 trillion industry offering a range of products and services on a constant conveyor belt. From biometric rings, vitamins, supplements and juices, infrared saunas, mindfulness apps, and aesthetic products. Wellness products come in all shapes and sizes, and that's not even scratching the surface. A dedicated sector for mental wellness is one of the fastest growing alongside our awareness of our mental health and well being. Personally, I like to dip my toe in wellness waters. It doesn't take much for me to add immunity shots to my weekly food shop or pop into an all frill skincare product on my online basket. And yet, you should not need to do that. You don't need to buy immunity shots, they do not work. They're not going to do at all what they're telling you. Skincare can be a bit more different. I'd say you don't need to spend a whole lot of money on it, but skincare at least can make you feel better in your own skin, and that's totally fine. But uh, there's something I find satisfying investing in the idea of a better, healthier you, even if it does come at the expense of your bank balance. Sometimes you, or at least I, just can't resist. The wellness industry is selling you a myth that a healthy lifestyle is expensive, and that's actually the article we just went over. So this is kind of a response to that article. Reads a headline from Guardian in 2020, proving that the industry is not without its critics. Well-being is presented as complex. We already read this quote, but yet it doesn't exist in a silo. If it weren't for consumer interest, surely there would not be quite so much success. Um, While personally I don't quite relate to the Guardian journalist's existential pain surrounding modern day well being, I completely understand the sentiment behind the statement. Well being has become somewhat of a product despite the concept's existence when you strip it away from the business lens. It begs the question, is the hunger for consumerism and company profit just tapping into the proverbial saying that prevention is better than cure, or is there really a role in the industry for wellness? With a dedicated sector, do we have to buy our way into better mental well-being? Yeah, and this is exactly what we are kind of just talking about. What is mental wellness anyway? Wellness, often used interchangeably with well-being, is the state of being healthy, especially when actively trying to achieve it, moving towards optimization. The concept of wellness is nowhere near as new as the industry, with the global wellness industry perfectly describing that wellness is a modern word with ancient roots. Yeah, ancient roots indeed. The earliest records of the idea go as far back as Ayurveda in 3000 to 1500 BC, a holistic system of medicine from India focused on improving health or maintaining it. And I would agree, there's definitely a lot of spiritualism that goes into this. Like it's kind of started with um, this mind, body, spirit connection, this idea that if you nurture your spirit, nurture your soul, then you're going to have better physical health. And that if you nurture your physical health, then that is going to give you better spiritual outcomes. And I think this reason, I think that the reason for this is definitely religious in nature. Traditional Chinese medicine, ancient Greece and Rome also reflects these principles of working towards prevention rather than cure. Mental wellness itself doesn't have one set definition, but is generally about how we feel and the ability to cope with daily life. According to the Global Wellness Institute, where the industry places its role in mental wellness, is helping with ways of coping with everyday challenges such as stress, burnout, loneliness, and sadness outside of clinical, meaning psychological and psychiatric care, if I can speak. Products and services in the sector appear to offer mindfulness guidance in the form of apps, sleep supplements, tech tracking for mood, movement, and sleep, supplements and aromatherapy based products, to name a few. Yeah, it seems like you can't escape somebody trying to sell you something. But is this needed? Well, the short answer is no, not really. Yeah, and I would tend to agree with that. Criticisms of the industry tend to lean on the fact that a healthy lifestyle can be basic and stripped back. Healthy nutrition, daily movement, avoiding substances, and getting sufficient sleep. And this is valid. Mind, a prominent mental health charity, provides tips to improve mental well being, including trying to relax and reduce stress, spending time in nature, looking after your physical health, and improving sleep. Most of these should, and I emphasize the word should for a reason, be readily available to all rather than a product to be purchased as a consumer. Yes, 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 yes. And I do think that, like, again, I said this at the beginning of the show today that, like, literally, this would not be a problem. And I think that the wellness industry and pseudoscience would have way less of a hold on people if people had access to safe and effective healthcare. Like if and I think that's part of the reason why we're not doing universal healthcare. Why we're not going into that is because of course, well, insurance companies want money and they're going to lobby like crazy to not lose their income. But also we would lose this wellness industry. They would not have a business because they wouldn't be able to uh get the rebounds from the healthcare system. They wouldn't be able to sell people on all this stuff because people would be getting their needs met. And I guess I can't say that it would be 100% gone because there are still people who have access to evidence-based healthcare that isn't really effective for them. I know that chronic disease and chronic pain are some that are very difficult to manage effectively. And so there are going to be people that are going to, try to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. But I feel like that there'd be way less of that if, number 1, we just prevented a lot of those things in the first place, and by prevent, I don't mean, um, like, having your chakras aligned already or, like, having, uh, like, terrain theory thing where you have to be, like, doing certain things to somebody's, uh, specific ideological standard. Like, I mean, access to vaccines, access to safe communities to live in, access to healthy foods, access to education, all of that is what I mean. Like, that is the prevention that is going to matter in the long run and going to carry the most weight for this. And I think having all of that would, like, while I don't think it would reduce, like, I don't think it'll get rid of chronic disease. And in fact, we're going to have more chronic disease in our population because of the fact that medical science is advancing to where people with chronic disease are living longer and they're living with better quality of life. So I don't think this is going to go away entirely, but it would be significantly reduced. Unfortunately, there are still obstacles creating barriers to improving things such as physical health, with billions of people being unable to afford to eat healthy, an alarming consideration beyond the realm of the wellness industry. Yep, 100%. The mental wellness is personal. That mental wellness is personal and subjective is acknowledged in the industry, but the products offered can't necessarily account for the degree of personalization involved in achieving an individual's mental well-being, and many factors such as adequate nutrition are far beyond its scope. Um, and I do want to say that there is kind of an unhealthy obsession with customization and personalization. I acknowledge that there is some nuance with variations in people's disease processes and how people experience their chronic diseases, how people experience their health, what outcomes matter more to them. There are definitely those factors to take into account, and there should be options um, that you can give people. Like, hey, we have treatment option A, B, and C. What, which of these aligns more with your goals and objectives? And I think that is okay. But there's this big trend now that everything has to be specifically tailored to you. And I think people forget that we're all humans and a lot of our physiology is the same. Um, Most things that are going to work for one person are also going to work in a similar way for other people. So this idea that you have to know your exact DNA, you have to get your DNA test, all of these unnecessary labs, you have to get your full body MRI to know exactly how to tailor wellness to you. That is all just a way to get you to buy more shit. It's a way to get you to buy the DNA test and then also to buy more supplements. It's like, oh, you have this very specific mutation that's probably not causing any of your symptoms, but I can make you think that it is, and so I'm going to sell you a product and keep you as a customer long term. Medicine, contrary to what a lot of wellness people are saying, like this rhetoric that uh, conventional medicine just wants to sell you things and just wants to keep you sick, like no, not at all. Actually, there's a lot of stepping back in how much treatment we're giving people and how much testing are we doing. There was this push in the past to say let's do all this testing, like let's test everybody for everything. If you have a cold, let's test you for every single virus that this could be. Let's uh, go through all of it because more information is better, right? No, not necessarily. The information is only better if it's going to change management, if it's going to change what we do about whatever issue you have. And so medicine is actually stepping back and saying and doing less for people because especially in a time when people can't afford these extra things, like and people think that it's us not caring and that we don't want to treat your disease. Like no, it's just we don't have an option that's going to make it that much better. And so we can talk about it. I mean, do you want to pay thousands of dollars for something that's probably not going to work? Or would you rather me have an honest conversation with you and say, "Hey, I know that this is uncomfortable. I know that your condition is painful. I understand that you are feeling distressed and you want to know more, but this isn't going to change how you're feeling. This isn't going to make your condition better. All it's going to do is drain your wallet." And we need to have more of those conversations and we need to stop demanding this customization. We need to stop and we need to stop encouraging it. Yeah, and Bo making a good point. Sustaining a population with a demographic of aging disabled people is a sign of a successful nation. Yeah. Yeah, the ability to support people who need extra assistance is a positive. So yeah, having a population with more chronically ill people is ultimately a positive because it means those people are existing longer, and that's usually a positive thing. Um, but yeah, they get into this. The mental wellness is personal subjective is acknowledged by the industry, but the products offered can't necessarily account for the degree of personalization involved in achieving an individual's mental well-being and many factors and all that. So, like exactly what I was saying, it's going to offer you personalization, but does it actually is it actually that personalized or are they just selling you on that? Like this reminds me a lot of of astrology where it's selling you this idea that well your star sign and this horoscope is going to be specific to you. It's going to tell you what's going to make you successful, what your destiny is. And like it's stuff that really impacts everybody. Like it's so generalized to get you hooked onto it, but it's not actually offering the personalization that it claims to. And I think that the same thing is happening in the wellness industry. Like the naturopaths and the wellness gurus are like they're selling everybody the same products. And you can do like a little quiz online that says, "Oh, you have this imbalance in your hormones. You need to take this supplement." How many other people are taking the same quiz and is the quiz going to automatically generate the same response for every person that takes it? That's an important thing to consider. Like, are they just baiting you? We need to be more skeptical of like why people are telling us these things. What do they have to gain from it? And what does the data say? And Ryan's is my horoscope said I'd be watching Dr. Ben today. Now what? Yeah, I mean, everyone's horoscope should be telling you to watch the show. So I appreciate that everyone's horoscope was correct today. Um, you'll get your horoscope next week too that will also tell you to be watching at the same exact time. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Mental health hinges on several individual, social, and structural determinants varying throughout life and acting as either risk or protective factors. Oh, I love this, the Bennonites. Yes, that is our community name now, the Bennonites. Are we starting a cult? We're starting a cult, I love it. Don't clip me out saying that particular statement. People will take that out of context. Um, but yeah, this is the cycle of medical disparity that we were just talking about. While some of the individual determinants, such as emotional skills, can be target for change, others, such as genetics, cannot. Yeah, that's true. And some of the more social and structural determinants, such as poverty, inequality, environmental deprivation, require systemic change, not a product to be purchased or trialed. Yeah, and we already went into that. While this isn't a lesson or criticism of the industry, they certainly don't try and sell a solution to all these determinants. It is a point to be made of the narrative surrounding it. Absolutely. An exclusionary wellness club. Labeling it as exclusionary wellness club may be a little bit extreme, but it's important to realize that accessing the wellness industry requires you to be in a relative position of privilege. Absolutely, yes. Where everything is so expensive, only certain people are going to have access to that, and it is a status symbol at this point. It's a point I wanted to make when I commented on my own privileged occasional splurge on an immunity shot or skincare product, but it seemed too early to mention. I recognize that I am fortunate to be able to do this, and unfortunately, this is not the case for everyone. It seems to me that the narrative is the most important part of consideration here. It's important to avoid dictating that buying into mental wellness is essential and isolates a huge amount of the population. The fundamentals of mental wellness are simple in theory. Anything you want to do beyond this is optional and fine as so long as you have the choice. Mindfulness practices are a great example of this. The app Headspace, not an ad, is probably one of the better known options for such a service on the market. Claiming to be the most science backed meditation app, they boast stats such as a 32% decrease in stress after 30 days and a 22% increase in focus following a single session. There's certainly not an issue in opting for this kind of benefit if you can. However, there's a lot of free services that help teach and guide mindfulness practices, which are more freely available. Yeah, exactly. And this is the point. Like, most of the things that you can do uh, to do these wellness practices, there is a free option. You don't have to use Headspace. You don't have to go to a yoga class. You don't have to go to a meditation session. You can watch a free YouTube video. You can find a guide online. We can do some mutual aid and do some skill trading amongst ourselves. We can have closer knit communities where somebody leads a group meditation session or leads a group debrief on your day's session. Like, not all of this has to be a pay to use service. Yeah, and this is a excellent point. How do you quantify reduce stress and increase focus? You can't. It is completely subjective. And so yeah, they definitely use that to their advantage to convince people that they need to do more of this. And I love to see stats too about what the stats would be for, like, comparing those that used Headspace versus those that did an individually determined meditation program, or like somebody just sitting in the room and listening to music. Like, these stats don't mean a whole lot when you haven't compared them to a control group. Like, who's your control here? Like, I want to see a study that uses Headspace and then one that does not do meditation at all, and then one that does meditation in a different way, and then see if these stats actually change. Because I almost, like, my hypothesis would be that the people that did any kind of mindfulness would have similar outcomes. but I don't know. I haven't done a study on this. Maybe I should. Maybe that's something I should look into doing. Is a study on that. In my opinion, mental wellness and wellness in general hasn't necessarily been commodified so long as the narrative doesn't lead us to believe that is something we have to invest in financially. Well, I mean, I disagree with that statement because it has been communicated that way, especially through the internet. There's no apparent large evil money making scheme aiming to scam us out of our hard earned money. I disagree. There is. It's not one specific organization, it's multiple smaller ones. It's the chiropractic institutions, it's the naturopathic institutions, it's the influencers on Instagram and TikTok. Like, it's not one big Illuminati scheme, but there are individual people contributing to the same narrative. So I would disagree that with that particular statement. Um, but I do agree with kind of their point in this paragraph is that there is a push and a pull. There are two sides of this. There's the one side that's selling you the stuff, and then there's the other side that's buying the stuff. So while we can't change the system individually, at least not to that huge degree, unless we're going to try to get into politics and all that. But what we can do is we can stop purchasing. We can stop thinking that we need to give in to consumption and consumerism. We can do better in our communities and say it's okay to not buy these things. Like, maybe take some time this holiday season to um what am I doing here? Why is it showing the I was making like this big oh, that's why. It's because it's there we go. Um but let's take some time this holiday season to be mindful of our consumption, mindful of what's being advertised to us. Take some time to stop buying things. Like, let's have a low consumerism holiday. And that's not to say like you can't go out and celebrate, but you don't need to go buy the Ralph Lauren Christmas. You don't need to go throw out all your your old decorations and buy new ones. You don't need to go like buy an elliptical. You don't need to go buy all this stuff to be healthier. You can do things on your own. We can do things as a community. Let's protest the industry. Let's vote with our dollars and not spend them, or let's spend them less. And maybe we can start using more of that as like, I'm not saying that we should really have anything as a status symbol, but let's take some pride in uh I did this on my own, or like I did this for free. I used this free resource. I didn't buy the premium. I didn't buy the subscription. Like, that's something that I think we as a community can work towards. Um, yeah, it is always morally correct to subvert profit structures that enable fascism, and the wellness industry is wholly in that camp too. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Yeah, and with that, like, it's not bad to buy lotion, candles, those things, but, like, we can buy smaller amounts. You don't have to buy the fanciest one. You don't have to go to, Bath& and Body Works to buy your candles. You could go to Walmart to buy a candle. You can go to Dollar Tree and buy a candle. It doesn't have to be the most expensive option, and the premium price doesn't mean that you're getting a better product. It just means that you're willing to pay more for something else. And I think that's also something we said about shrinkflation and um, how companies are using uh, consumerism against us to like they're not necessarily selling us better products for that money. They're just selling for what we're willing to pay for it. I have one more article that I'm going to pull up, and this will kind of be the last one for the day. Share screen. And this is specifically referencing the role of social media in all of this because influencer culture is so bad for us. And I think now that we're um able to compare our lives to people so much more is really, really hurting us. It's hurting our mental health. It's hurting our physical health. It's hurting our wallets. It's hurting everything. Um, and like, there's definitely, obviously, I'm on the media right now. I am a media person on my channel. I am spreading my own ideas. I am, in a way, selling a product. Uh, and that can't really be avoided. But what, like, what I mentioned earlier on in the stream is that what people are doing on social media is fake, overwhelmingly so. People portray the person that they want to be seen as online, and they get to control that. So don't look at somebody online and think that they're so healthy because of XYZ things that they bought, when really they fabricated that appearance, that narrative to get you to buy whatever it is that they're selling. They're trying to make ends meet as well. And you don't have to compare yourself to them. The toxic wellness culture fueled by social media. The powerful wellness industry is growing by 8.6% every year, and with social media being a driving force for wellness trends and daily routines. Constantly feeding the idea that the key to wellness is a strict lifestyle, social media fuels a toxic wellness culture that negatively impacts the mental health of young, impressionable people. However, ways to fight back against the toxicity have been emerging, and young people are redefining what wellness means to them. The wellness industry has been around for decades. We don't need to really go into that because we already kind of talked about it. Um, but wellness on social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and more notably TikTok consist of a variety of content dedicated to well-being. On TikTok alone, hashtag wellness has over 16 billion views, with trends and subtopics including morning routines, affirmations, and hormonal health, which do not listen to people on TikTok about hormones unless they are like a licensed professional. Like, please don't listen to them. And even if you are listening to someone who's licensed, uh, feel free, like, please get second opinions from your own healthcare team because no one can give you like the advice that people are going to give, generally speaking, is not going to be sufficient to really help you make medical decisions. The list of topics and trends is vast, unusual, and bizarre, but they all fall under the same gigantic theme. Wellness is a monumental topic. 79% of consumers around the world believe it's important, and 42% consider it a top priority, according to McKinsey. Wellness brands and influencers are taking advantage of this powerful opportunity, using social media to promote wellness or routines dedicated to improving well being. Even TikTok Shop has previously teamed up with wellness brands to support their community, promoting products such as supplements and nutritional products. This idea of social media taking part in and of providing a platform for wellness content seems like a positive approach to well-being. However, like all things with social media, it takes its toll when constantly being promoted. Despite starting out as a positive movement, wellness has branched out into negative territories, encouraging a toxic culture and obsessive behaviors. Often promoting perfectionism, wellness culture is viewed as harmful by more than half of young people, as well as by brands promoting toxic practices. Brands and influencers have capitalized on young people's insecurities and vulnerability, promoting unrealistic standards and increasing pressure to transform their lifestyles. The term wellness syndrome, coined by Carl Cederstrom, explains that the toxicity of wellness culture has caused us to sacrifice our happiness by ultimately feeling worse. Yeah, and that is definitely an interesting paradox with all this. You buy into the wellness industry thinking that it's going to improve your mental health and your happiness, but because you become so obsessed with it and having to be perfect, you end up feeling worse than you did before starting this. Different versions of extreme lifestyles that involve waking up early, strict diets, and working out are posted every day on social media with no control over who it reaches. And yeah, and especially dangerous for preteens and teenagers who are already at very high risk for things like anorexia and bulimia, and other eating disorders. This is very problematic, to allow young people unregulated access to this kind of information. So if you do have kids, like I'm not saying that they have to be off the internet, but make sure you're having these conversations with your kids about, how they feel about their bodies. What does it mean to be healthy? What does it mean to be happy? Uh, what are people trying to tell them to compare their lives with? We need to be checking in on our adolescents and making sure that um, they're not falling prey to a lot of this rhetoric. It can trigger insecurities, develop obsessive behaviors, and cause feelings of stress and anxiety from the constant pressure. The threat that toxic wellness culture poses to mental health is becoming more apparent, and especially as Gen Z is the most sensitive generation, it was only a matter of time before a resistance began. Yeah, and you do definitely with Gen Z, you have this uh like interesting dichotomy. You have on the one hand this generation that grew up with the internet and grew up with having this propaganda and advertising shoved in their face from birth. Um, you have people that have fully given into that and have been very, very impressionable. And you have the other side of Gen Z that is just sick and tired of being advertised to all the time. Like, why can't they have a break and just like exist? Why can't they just exist without uh, everything being some kind of online argument? Um, it's very interesting to see this dichotomy within Gen Z. Redefining wellness. Recently, more young people are pushing back against conventional ideas of wellness while redefining it in an attempt to end its toxicity. Alternatives such as anti wellness reject the strict routines and welcome orthodox solutions such as lazy skincare. I kind of love this. I definitely see some pros and cons to this. Um, As trends like anti wellness and radical acceptance embrace imperfection and steer away from unrealistic standards, young people are redefining wellness to be more inclusive of their imperfect lifestyles, according to Y Pulse. Parallel to the belief that even something unhealthy, can be good for you, social media trends such as hashtag nightlux promote carefree lifestyles like staying out late and being more spontaneous. And yeah, there is some give and take here. There is some nuance. Um, I do agree largely with this. I largely agree with radical acceptance. I think it's important to not give into comparison. It's important to say it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not do the optimal skincare routine. It's okay to stay out late. It's okay to be spontaneous. I do want to say that there is an extent to which this does become extreme. It's important to not encourage things like super unsafe behaviors, right? Like, I don't want carefree lifestyles to extend into avoiding sexual protection, avoiding contraception, um, using substances that are highly addictive, such as meth, cocaine, uh, opioids, all that, like not giving into risky driving behaviors. There's definitely an extent where I could see this getting very, very extreme. I think for the most part, people aren't advocating for that. I think that the radical acceptance movement is not advocating for that. But just to make sure people don't misconstrue what's being said here, this is like eat that slice of cake. As long as you don't have a condition where that slice of cake is going to kill you, like if you're celiac, please don't just eat the gluten in the cake because you can. Like, that is dangerous at that point. But it's okay to eat unhealthy things. It's okay to not go for a walk one day. It's okay to take a nap and not have it be for like some kind of, I don't know, holistic health reason. It's okay to do things for you. It's okay to enjoy life. It's okay to have a drink sometimes. It's okay. It's okay to not obsess over being a perfectly healthy person. And ultimately, having that balance, having that acceptance is going to contribute to better outcomes. Um, but this is, I think, where we're leaving off for today. So all of that being said, the key points for today: you don't need to buy products to be healthy. But what needs to change are societal factors. The infrastructure needs to change. The insurance industry needs to change. The uh, lifestyle factors, including like income disparities, housing disparities, that needs to change. Instead of pushing a narrative that premium products means better health, and instead of allowing a system to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy, we need to fight back against this. And doing so is going to be leaps and bounds more helpful than selling a supplement or buying a supplement. Uh, and so, kind of wrapping up, we have some. Oh, and we got people joining us last minute. We're just about to end here, but we do have Holy Spirits tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. I moved the time later so people could uh, get there easier. And I actually have you all being routed there after this, at least from the horizontal stream. You'll be routed there very shortly. I can't think of any other big announcements. Oh, um, we do have some fundraisers going on and stuff. And if people are able to give super chats, join the Patreon if you're able. But even with that, like and subscribe the video to the video and the channel. All of that really does help. Uh, my household's kind of going through a lot right now with my military service is officially about to end at the end of this month. Um, and so and there's a lot of work that goes into producing this content for y'all every week. So all those likes and subscribes are super super helpful, and I greatly appreciate everybody being here, being active chatters, um, and kind of being encouraging throughout this whole process. And I think we're gonna do a fun end of year stream. I think we're gonna cover our favorite and least favorite topics from this past year, and it'll be really fun. So I can't wait to see you all next week. I have no clue what topic we're talking about next week, um, but I will see you all next time. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you over in Holy Spirits. Bye, everyone.